Let's put our hand over our eyes. I open my eyes to see the spiritual truth today.
I open my eyes to see the spiritual truth today.
Now over your ears, I open my ears to hear the spiritual truth today.
I open my ears to hear the spiritual truth today.
Now if you just put your hand over your heart, extend out your arms. I open my heart to receive the spiritual truth today.
I open my heart to receive the spiritual truth today.
The spiritual truth that I'm working with today is that life was not designed to be lived hard. Life was not designed for us to live life hard, to struggle all the time in our relationships, or with money, or with our health, or with our careers. We weren't built to struggle all the time. We have to work really hard to do that, and I know a lot of us do. I mean, there are areas of our lives sometimes that just call us for struggle. But there's a way out of that. There's a way out of that struggle before things get too tough in our lives. We're working with a little series right now to help us live happier lives. Because that's what you were sent here to do, to be happy, to be joyous, to be so abundant you wanted to share with everybody else, to be free, to decide you want to go over here, you get to go over here because you decided you wanted to go over here. Not because you didn't have enough money to go over there, or because people were holding you back from going over there, but because you decided you wanted to go over there. There's a way to live life in harmony with the divine nature that is within you and within everybody and everything else. If we're living that life in harmony, then we get to know a new joy, a feeling of happiness that is just all around us. You know, the series is called the 10 Commandments, and here's what happens, and I said this last week. What happens with the 10 Commandments is those of us who grew up churched often think the 10 Commandments are external edicts. They're rules that we have to follow, often to make somebody else happy. Not even to make ourselves happy, but to make somebody else happy. Sometimes that somebody has already gone on to the other side, and we're still trying to make them happy in our lives. But those 10 Commandments weren't ever designed to be external rules. They were always designed to be spiritual wisdoms that if we can get it at the deep enough level, we can begin to know a new happiness without struggle, without living life in any hard way. Well, you know that the 10 wisdoms, the 10 Commandments came to Moses. Why did they come to Moses? They came to Moses for this reason and this reason only. He made himself quiet, he asked, and he received. That's it. That's it. He made himself quiet, he asked, and he received. And nothing more complicated about it than that. Do you mean, Reverend George, it's really that simple? I mean, it's really that simple. Now, Moses had something that is helpful when you receive, and that is humility. You know, Moses' back was up against the wall. Those of us are familiar with the term hitting bottom. Some of us in this room know about hitting bottom. Well, Moses hadn't hit bottom, but he was close enough to feel the heat. You know how that is? You're not in hell, but you feel a little warm around the feet, yeah? Well, that's what was happening, and that's what happens to us. We wait until we feel the heat before we begin to ask for help in our lives. So he had a dose of humility, which made things much easier. See, so many of us are still trying to run the show. We're still trying to make all the decisions. We're still trying to control everybody else's behavior, including our own and other people's behaviors. We're in that control mode. That's not what this is about. This is about allowing ourselves to be in harmony with principles that are already there. It's about recognizing that God is everywhere we go. All the time, 24/7 in our life. And that's our job. You know, the first part of the prayer, we teach a certain kind. If you're visiting today, we love all prayer. We love Catholic prayer, we love Muslim prayer, we love Hindu prayer, we love any kind of prayer, earth-based prayers, we love all kinds of prayers. We teach a certain kind of prayer that we call spiritual mind treatment. And it's a 5-step way of praying. Is it the only great way to pray? No. It's one great way to pray. And the first step of this 5-step way to pray is to recognize that God is in the room. That everywhere we go, God is. That's what we want to be able to recognize. When Paul asked us to pray without ceasing, Paul was saying, everything you see God. Everywhere you look God. You see your ex who's making co-parenting difficult right now, see God. You see your best friend who supports you in everything you do, see God. You look at yourself and you know you've tried to stop smoking and you got up until 8 o'clock at night and you just had to have that one cigarette and you were demoralized, see God. On that day when you never thought about a cigarette, see God. On those days that you secretly wish your children belonged to somebody else. Amen. See God. And on those days when you're just bursting with love for your child, see God. Everywhere we go, we see God. Here's the trick to praying without ceasing. It is to stop praying to God and start praying from God. Because everyone in this room knows the presence of God. And when we start praying from God, it's a whole different ballgame than when we beseech God to do something on our behalf. Well, to help us get closer to God, and with this series, and kind of with the flow, the natural flow of life, we're doing the 10 Commandments. I did 3 of them last week. We're not going to go over them. They were, I am the Lord thy God. Thou shalt not have false gods before me. The second one, thou shalt not have graven images. And the third one was, thou shalt not take the Lord's name in vain. All of that is on CD or on the Facebook if you want to go back and review it. We're going to move right along today. And the first one we're going to look at today is keep the Lord's day holy. Keeping the Lord's day holy. That's a commandment. Now, what is not true is that there is a certain day of the week that you're supposed to keep holy. It doesn't matter if you go to church or don't go to church. It doesn't matter if you work on Sunday or don't go to work on Sunday. It doesn't matter if you play golf on Sunday or don't play. Well, it might matter a little bit. None of that matters because we're not talking about a day of the week. See, the whole idea of Sabbath is a moving target in the first place. Every day is a Sabbath day. But in the religious calendar, Sabbath is different for Jews and for Christians. And even within the Christian community, the Sabbath is not always on the same day. The point is to keep every day a holy day. You know, in John chapter 5, Jesus says this, why would I pick a day to not work? Why would I do that? Now, he wasn't saying that you work like a workaholic every single day. Jesus got his rest. But he wasn't willing to say there's one day, here's Johnny and he needs a miracle and I can do the miracle, but it's on the Lord's day and I'm not going to do that because it's on a certain day. Jesus didn't do that. He was able to help whomever, whenever. Keep the Lord's day holy is an everyday kind of thing. In Jewish text, it is written this, the Sabbath is given unto you, you not unto the Sabbath. So what we want to remember is every day, we're on holy ground. And we begin to come from that presence of God. The second one I want to go over is honor thy mother and thy father. Now this can be a button pusher for some of us in this room, and I know that. Honor thy mother and thy father. My prayer is that each one of you have found a way to honor your birth parents. And for some of us that's easy because our birth parents held our little heart, our little mind, our little soul they were good stewards, they loved us, they took care of us, they nurtured us in a really positive way. That's easy to honor those mothers and fathers. Then there are those of us in the room who had to work really hard around our forgiveness work. We did a lot of forgiveness work so we could honor our mother and our father. And there are still others this morning in the church who have not honored their mothers or fathers yet because they can't. It's not time. And so I hold no judgment on that, except to offer if you want to forgive. and meet this commandment, because you see, it's a commandment. It's a spiritual wisdom that will help you be happier. If you're still holding resentments about your mother and your father, use us. We are not just a Sunday church. Practitioners in the house, please stand. These are people who will help you. These are people who will help you begin to do the forgiveness work. Even if you go to them and say, you know what, Reverend Georgia said I should come here and forgive my parents, and I don't really want to. But if you could help me, you know, even with that attitude, it's a start. Thank you. It's a start. Honor thy mother and thy father. But here's the thing. I want you to do that, but that's not really what this commandment is about metaphysically. About this commandment, honor thy mother and thy father, is about honoring the divine feminine and the divine masculine that is within each and every one of us, regardless of gender. Has nothing to do with gender. All of us have what most religions refer to as the divine mother, which is the nurturer, the creative part. And then we have the divine father, which is the intellectual part. We all have that inside of us. And in order to be able to live a happy life, we have to be able to honor all of that within us. So there's no more saying, I'm not creative. I don't know how to be creative. Or I'm just not very smart with money. I don't do that very good. None of that is happening anymore, because now you're honoring both of those parts of you that are rich and full inside of you. Nobody got left out. You may want to do some work to enhance those things, but all of you have that inside of you in your life. See, the commandment asks us to honor the right brain and the left brain. It asks us to honor the law and the love that is within us, the mystical that is within us, and the intellectual within us. That's all got to be honored as part of working with this commandment. Now, this is especially important in New Thought churches, because in New Thought churches, you often hear ministers like myself. When you go there, come here, you heard it this morning in the sacred reading. I chose that sacred reading. I like that sacred reading. And what it says is, change your thinking, change your life. And that's critical. You have to change your thinking in order to change your life. But it doesn't end there. Change your thinking, change your life enables you to change your feeling. And it's your feeling that will attract the good to you. So it's change your thinking, change your life, change your feeling, change your life. Honor the thinking part of you and the feeling part of you, or you will never be able to fully manifest that which is in your heart to manifest. So this is a very important commandment for us. See, our vibration attracts our good, and our vibration also repels our good. So we have to be attentive to both. Ernest Holmes, at the end of his life, when they said, Ernest, is there anything you would regret? And he said, I'd only regret this, that I paid more attention to the law than I did to love. More attention to my thinking mind than I did to my feeling self. To make this commandment work for us, we've got to honor both. The next one is, thou shalt not kill. Now, Moses, in the time of Moses, the way they dealt with struggle was to kill each other. Okay, so that they were actually talking about human beings, and that doesn't happen so much anymore. Although I have to say, we're not home free from this yet. This killing each other, especially by guns. The CDC says that there are 53 murders by handguns in the United States every day. 53 murders by handguns every day. Additionally, there are another 30 suicides by handguns every day. So we have a lot of work to do in terms of working with the consciousness around thou shalt not kill. But if you got up this morning and you're at a church like this, I doubt you're carrying a pistol in your purse. I mean, I doubt that's happening to you. So I want to talk about a different kind of killing that I think is just as bad, and one we New Thoughters do a lot, and that is killing our dreams. Thou shalt not kill our dreams. See, your dreams were installed in you by God for the very purpose of manifestation on the planet, and that's good for everybody. Even if you think your dream is a selfish dream, it's not a selfish dream. If I see somebody who dreams of going to Europe, and then they go to Europe, and they say, well, what is this doing for anybody else but me? It's doing something for me. Because I saw you go through that process. I saw you have a joyous experience based on a dream that you had. There are no selfish dreams. They're all here from by God to make manifest. But here's what happens. We get to a certain age, we've had a certain amount of experiences in life, we stop dreaming, or if a dream creeps through, we say, oh, I'm too old for that, or I tried that, or this is never going to work, or it's never worked before. We say all those things. We kill our dreams. Thou shalt not kill. Don't kill your dreams, because you're wasting a gift in your life. I want to, a lot of times we think, well, you know what, it's too late. It's too late. I've had too much go on. I better either not have a dream or pare down a dream. Let me read you a story. This was from 1984. As a child, Mary Groda did not learn to read and write. Experts labeled her retarded. As an adolescent, she earned an additional label, incorrigible, and was sentenced to 2 years in a reformatory. It was here, ironically, in this closed-in place that Mary, bending to the challenge to learn, worked at her task for as long as 16 hours a day. Her hard work paid off, and she was awarded her GED. But more misfortune was to visit Mary Groda. After leaving the reformatory, she became pregnant without benefit of marriage. Then 2 years later, a second pregnancy resulted in a stroke, erasing her hard-earned power of reading and writing. With the help and support of her father, Mary battled back, regaining what she had lost. In dire financial straits, Mary went on welfare. Finally, to make ends meet, she even took in 7 foster children. It was during this period that she started taking courses at a community college. Upon completion of her coursework, she applied to and was accepted by the Albany Medical School to study medicine. In the spring of 1984 in Oregon, Mary Groda Lewis, she's married now, paraded in full academic regalia across the graduation stage. No one could know what private thoughts went through Mary's mind as she reached out to grasp this eloquent testimony to her self-belief and perseverance. Her diploma announced to all the world, here stands on this small point of planet Earth a person who dared to dream the impossible dream, a person who conforms for all human divineness. Here stands Mary Groda Lewis, M.D. People do things even after having terrible experiences. They are able to have dreams. Don't kill your dreams. Honor this commandment. Have dreams. Allow yourself to explore where these dreams might take you. The next one is thou shalt not commit adultery. Most of you have heard the old joke. Moses came back down and said, well, the good news is God pared it down from 30 to 10. The bad news is adultery is still in. Here is the thing about adultery. I don't know anybody who broke their vows who didn't regret it. I don't know one person who broke their vows who hasn't regretted breaking their vows. You know, in the recovery community, there's a thing called a geographic. A geographic is where you think life is better over there, so you go over there. You know, you can't keep your trip together over here, but you're sure over in Katati it's going to be great, and so you move to Katati. The only problem is everywhere you go, there you are. Well, the same thing is true. It's the same thing is true for adultery. Every one you go to, there you are. Now, you know, what we really want to ask ourselves when we are in the throes of thinking about committing an adulterous act and breaking this commandment, here's what we want to think about. We want to begin to ask ourselves questions. What am I missing that I'm wanting to go over there? Am I missing excitement? Am I missing deep communication with my beloved? Am I missing passion? Am I missing adventure? Have we become so focused on our children that we forgot about each other? Those are the questions you want to begin to ask yourselves before you leave a relationship. Now look, we're not a community that says people should stay together forever if they're not happy. I actually have friends who are better best friends with their exes than they ever were as married people together. So that's possible. Sometimes relationships are simply complete. And we honor that. We ask that you do everything you can to keep your relationship together. We ask you to pray together. We ask you to come see me or come see a practitioner before your relationship ends. We ask you to go see a marriage counselor before your marriage ends. We ask you to do everything you can. But if it's complete, it's complete. And if you're not happy, but you think your partner's happy, that's not the case. Because in a true marriage, if one person is really unhappy, the other person can't be happy over a long period of time. So we want you to do whatever you can to keep your marriage together, but if it's time for it to be complete, it's okay to move on. But don't go get somebody else before you move on. Complete one thing before the other. Now, is that a moral judgment? No. You're not going to be happy. You simply won't be happy. And what our work here to do is to keep us as close to the presence of God as we possibly can so that we will be happy. Now, the last one is bear fault. I will not bear false witness against my neighbor. Here's the thing. Anything you say against anybody else and yourself that is anything other than you are whole, perfect, and complete is bearing false witness. So that's a nutshell version. I don't need to say any more. Anything you say about anybody else that is different than they are whole, perfect, and complete is bearing false witness. Now, you don't have to agree with what people are doing or saying. There is a politician that has called me to stand up here to say he is whole, perfect, and complete. And I'm working at it. Hard. Because the truth is, that is the truth. He is whole, perfect, and complete. And nobody needs me in the national dialogue right now, and nobody needs anybody in this room in the national dialogue right now about what's going on. What we need to do is to hold everybody up to their highest good. The last one is, thou shalt not covet. Thou shalt not covet thy neighbor's wife, lawnmower, whatever, you know. I always love that the wives are about the same level as the lawnmower on the coveting thing, but the truth is, we actually don't agree entirely with this commandment here at Science of Mind. We actually don't agree with it. We don't want you to go out and take anybody else's stuff that doesn't belong to you. But covet it, we might want you to covet it. And here's why. Because it will give you a new mental equivalent. It will give you a new way of saying, look how much bigger their life is. I would like my life to be a little bigger in that way. You know, I grew up very working class. And so there are things, as I got out of my neighborhood and out into the world, there are things that I saw that people had that I never dreamed people had. And I began to want that. That's a good thing. Now, you can't go steal what they got. But to replicate what they have is not a bad thing in life. These 10 Commandments can help us. Think about them from time to time. Just contemplate them from time to time. See what they're saying to your heart, because they have a message for you. You might want to just get them out and lay them on your you know, your kitchen table or a counter, wherever you go every once in a while. And every once in a while just glance down and say, thou shalt not have false gods before me. I wonder what do I have today in terms of false God? You know, is my worry my false God? Is Jim Beam my false God? Who's my false God? In your life. Begin to hold yourself accountable for this. Let's take this message into prayer. No, there's only one power. It's the power of love, and it runs through me right now. I give thanks for this. I speak my word that I will not hold anything back. That I will just let love flow. I won't even worry about the direction it's flowing in. I'll just follow it along. Love will lead me today. I give thanks for that. I release this word into the lawn. Together we say, and so